I'm just going to give you a very, very quick story about how it all started and what we actually did and what we're actually doing now and what we're going to do in the future. I have a friend of mine in Ireland, in Southern Ireland there, who had the whirlwind. And I used to go over there and fly the whirlwind a little bit with him, and then sadly he got cancer and couldn't get the medical anymore. So he used to say to me when we're going over there and a few Guinnesses, Andrew, you should have the Sea King, you don't want the whirlwind, sorry, you want a man to keep it going. Anyway, after a couple of years, lots of Guinness one night, and I agreed to have it. So we got it back here, got it flying again, and that was the start of the whirlwind. Then, we're at Yeovilton one time, some Navy captain said to me, do you fancy doing a Sea King? I'll get the Sea King in a minute, I promise. Get to doing Wessex. Do you fancy doing a Wessex? Yeah, okay. So I ended up buying 2 Wessex, and all the spares you can see just about outside the hangar from the Navy. We did 1 Wessex, the other one's a bit rotten, so we're not going to do that. Probably end up as a glamping pod somewhere, so we've had all the bits we want off it, but we keep the Wessex flying, which is the only Wessex flying in the world, as is the only whirlwind flying in the world. And then, as we're doing Wessex, some Sea Kings came up for sale, so we ended up buying 7.
As you do.
As you do. We've now got 5, pretty much 5 flying and 1 about to, and the only one that isn't flying, which we're going to get in shortly, is the one you've seen outside, which is 647, which when it came out of service, Chris tells me over there that it was the oldest Sea King flying at the time. So we're really keen to get that one going again, especially as it has interest with us because it actually did the rescue of the Napoli, which was a container ship that broke up off the coast in Branscombe. You probably remember that, people scrambling for bits they could find on the beach. So that aircraft actually rescued the crew. The crew all got off in one of those fancy dinghy things, they'll plop in the water and they all get in it, so they got taken off. There was still a couple of people on the ship trying to rescue it or whatever they did, so that same Sea King went back and fetched them. So that's a reason I'd like to do it. So we started on the Yellow Sea King, 597 first, we got that flying, and then we did 122 is out there now, nearly flying. We did 314, which is a Mark IV, that's flying, and so it goes on the whole list. So the only one, the Belgian ones, of course. The only one we haven't got flying on in flyable condition right now is 647, which is going to come in next. You can imagine the room a Sea King takes up. So you can see outside there, we've got quite a few in the hangar, but on the other side as well, we've got a shed load of Sea Kings over there, and we just run out of space, to be quite honest with you. I guess this is all a passion, but it's not just my passion, it's a passion for everybody that comes here. We absolutely love aircraft, and we all feel as pilots that we're privileged to be able to still fly Sea King, Wessex, Lynx, none of which anybody else has got, and we're just about to start. Our next project's going to be 647, as I said, but we're also going to start the Widgeon that's down there, and Dave and I already speaking about this last week, because we're in the process at the moment of getting approval from CAA to have an engine rebuild shop for the Leonidas engine, which we need to do for Widgeon. Not only that, we've got a couple of people that want us to do engines for their, whatever they've got, aeroplanes, we'll talk about those. I guess, where will it stop? Well, I don't know really. When we all get fed up with it, it's just going to happen. It's not going to happen. So we just keep going and we'll keep doing what we do. We do quite a lot of film work. Probably some of you know that. You may have seen Marine One that's dressed up over there, or you'll see it later. We've done quite a lot of filming with that. That seems to be quite popular in the film world, but all the filming we had for August, September, October is just dead now. It's all gone because of the strike. Now that probably won't come back this year, so it's probably be next year. If we do make any money, which is just about impossible, you can imagine that employing 5 people full time, it's not chicken feed. And there's no way of making money out of this, and there's no way of getting grants, so that falls down to me. However, we do sometimes make a little bit on a film, and any money we make, because of my tax positions, I really can't afford to do that, so we put it into a charity. We've got this little charity going, which is solely dedicated towards ex-servicemen with PTSD. Now, everybody in the organisation, and flyers, crews, engineers, are all ex-military, and we've all got our demons. So, you know, we all know what we're all thinking, we all know what we're all talking about, and we have outside people that are kind of involved with the situation, but have been through bad times. Some of them have been through bad times too, Mike. So we provide them, be able to come here, work on the aircraft, talk to us, talk to each other, have a few beers, sometimes get legless. It happens. We have quite one unique thing. We have Jane here, who is the only person in our organisation who's not ex-military, and Jane is civilian. And Jane learned to fly and fly seeking. The only female civilian to ever do so. So Jane's going to give a little chat in a minute about how she started and what she does. I think that's kind of a potted history of what we're doing, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to do to go forward. What I think we're going to do going forward is I think we may well start to look for some corporate sponsorships somewhere down the line, because it is an expensive game. And of course, we're not flying as much as we used to because we've stopped doing air shows. We stopped doing air shows because they don't want to pay anything, and they absolutely don't want to pay anything. They expect to headline the Yellow Sea King on the front of their webpage and on the front of their brochure. Come and see the Yellow Sea King. I hate to say it, but the Yellow Sea King is the icon. That's what everybody wants to see. And at an air show, you can have 50, 60, 100 people in a queue waiting to get on board and have a look. And I jest not. The guys might tell you about Coxide in Belgium, where they went a few weeks ago. But it was exactly that there. So we are starting to quietly think about looking for a bit of sponsorship. Airfix has been quite good. It's been quite an honour to do this. I've quite enjoyed doing this. They give us a load of models, and good old Dale over there give us some more yet, which we'll sell in our shop. That's about all for me, because I like to keep it quite brief. I think I've covered the salient points. Any questions about historic helicopters?
How many gnomes have you got? If you fly that many Sea Kings and Wessex flyers?
How many gnomes? We've still got quite a few gnomes left. I've got 13 zero-time overhauled Wessex gnomes, the Gnome 1200. And I've got, I don't know, 4 maybe really good Gnome 1400s for Sea King. We actually put a Gnome 1200 correction into our Wessex. The Wessex Gnome 1000 decided to part company with the rest of it and blew out the side of the aircraft. Not in flight, luckily. So we put a major together to the CAA and said to them, it's much safer, much better if we put a more modern Gnome engine in, going back to the 60s instead of the 50s, with all the more modern computer and flight. And you know what? It's transformed the aircraft. The aircraft is absolutely lovely. I was always flying it manually on the hand throttle because the computer was so unreliable. It'd do something like you come into land, it would freeze, or you'd be taking off and it would freeze. So we just got rid of all that, just use it manually. Now it's pretty good. It's pretty good. We only use manual now for training, which I do like. Make sure the pilots do that because it makes them sweat. Any more? Sorry.
Are you having any more open days?
Yeah, we will. So Pete's going to cover that in a minute.
Right, good.
Our last one was nosed by our guy who was going to be our display director, which is why it got cancelled, because I didn't think it was fair for people to turn up here and not actually have flying. But we are trying to work a way around that, but it is difficult with the rules. I can even tell you this, that last week the Sea King went to Belgium, RSO2 went to Belgium. There was an invite put out, and because we asked for donations, it was classed as an air show. A fucking display, can you believe that? So we got chewed out by the CAA, please don't do that again. Okay, we don't do that again, because people had actually paid to come in to take photographs, so taken off. So there you go. That's what we have to put up with. That's what we have to put up with. CAA are great, man. Don't get me wrong. We love the CAA. We got on really well with the CAA. The CAA have an open invitation to come here anytime they're passing for a brew. Come and have a look at what we're doing. So we try to keep that fruitful on both sides. We actually do seminars for them occasionally. They actually come here and do their bits and pieces. I've spoken at quite a few seminars now for the CAA now of how you do this, because it's a black art, isn't it? Whoever thought CA would ever give anybody a permit to fly Sea King, to let civilians fly an ex-military Sea King weighing 10 tons, up to 10 tons. But they did.
Can I just say, on behalf of all aviation enthusiasts, what a great job you're doing, how much we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time. We'll do a very quick overview of historic helicopters. Andrew's done most of the bits. But before we start, there's 3 people here that are critical to not just historic helicopters, but the story of Sea King. Andrew's introduced himself. You're about to meet Jane, but there's also at the back, who's quietly going to kill me for this, but Chris Page, MBE, who has looked after Sea Kings for 42 years? Something like that. Anyway, he started when he was 3. So Chris, if you want to know anything about Sea King, Chris is the guy to talk to. The entire history of it in its service, and we are very, very lucky to have him as part of the organisation. So please do talk to Chris if there's any technical questions you have. So Andrew set up Historic Helicopters in 2013. As he said, he talked about the Whirlwind being the founder aircraft, etc. And the aim was to preserve and restore the aircraft in order that we can keep them in the public eye and link them with aircraft that were manufactured in the county, in the United Kingdom, and use them as an opportunity to engage with the public and demystify aircraft, in particular helicopters. Our charitable aims and the key aims of the organisation you can see listed up there. But in brief, the key things are to create a STEM opportunity, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, to engage with young people. And as I said, to take away that mystique that surrounds helicopters and aviation and link young people to the aircraft and enable them to engage in greater, better opportunity moving through their careers. The exemplar of that is a young lady that came here, began as an apprentice, and has now moved on to work for Boeing as an aircraft engineer. So under Dave's and the team's support and tutelage, she moved on into the industry. So that's exactly what we were trying to achieve. As Andrew also touched on, it's also a venue for ex-service personnel. So we've got a significant number of Army veterans, Andrew himself, as well as Royal Navy personnel, and an awful lot of people from the RAF, or as other people like to call it, the provisional wing of British Airways. We're working very hard to achieve all of that and make sure that that's delivered through the aircraft. The fleet that we currently operate, you can see on screen. In 2 cases, as Andrew said, the Whirlwind HAR-10 and the Wessex 5761 are the only remaining flying examples in the world. There are a number of Gate Guardians of Whirlwinds and Wessex, but only 2 remain flying. The Sea King Mark IIIs are both here today. One of the Sea King Mark IVs, the other's overwintering or oversummering now at Yeovilton. The Lynx and Widgeon are downstairs, as are the 2 Mark 48s. And you'll also see in the hangar a Wasp, which isn't actually a historic helicopters aircraft, but is here being looked after under the Dave and the team. Our ground crew team, as you can see in their natural habitat, have over 90 years experience across the fleet of aircraft. And that's multi-platform experience. We operate the aircraft under, as Andrew talked about, under CAA permit to fly. And we are regarded as the exemplar of warbird aviation. The quote is from the Civil Aviation Authority. What we do here is quite unique, quite niche. It has its challenges, and as a result, things like open mornings and flying displays can be difficult to arrange, not because of the CAA's perspective, they're entirely supportive, but as you can imagine, sometimes local authorities struggle to understand the nature of aircraft operations. So it's trying to persuade and cajole and make sure that South Somerset District Council understand what we're trying to achieve, and therefore sometimes we do have to make decisions which involve cancellation of events at short notice. We are looking forward to having another open day. That may be a static display allowing people to get up close and very personal with the aircraft, but we do routinely have open mornings once a month. The next one is this coming Saturday, and subsequently I think on the 11th of August, where we allow people to come in, we do a talk to them and then get them in meeting with the crews and into the aircraft themselves. The team itself is quite significant. We have a huge number of volunteers, both in covering air crew, ground roles, fire rescue, first aid, you name it. So a significant draw in terms of personnel. One of the open mornings we ran here, we were audited by South Somerset District Council, there were more fire crew and fire appliances here than there were in Crewkerne town down the road. So we're pretty good at what we do. The site, despite being an equestrian centre, does look after a lot of helicopters, which you'll have noticed, but we also host visiting aircraft. They range from operational aircraft, so we support visits, particularly night flying operations from the Army Air Corps AH-64 Delta and other aircraft, and also other warbird aircraft. So Scout X-Ray Tango 434 is a regular visitor, as are Gazelles and other platforms. Andrew talked about our support to the UK film industry, the MOD and other organisations, and we're very keen to continue with that. You'll have seen the aircraft in the Crown series on Netflix, where the Wessex is flown by Prince Andrew going in to see his mum. A BBC TV series, The Vigil, with the infamous rebranding of a Mark III to the Royal Navy. And of course, Apple TV series Invasion, where the Sea King Mark IV was used. On the bottom left of the screen, you can see the aircraft which was flown by our future king, and you'll be able to see that today as you walk around. We also are very proud to support MOD events, and that ranges from everything from the Royal Navy Wings charity through to to using the aircraft as centrepieces for cocktail parties. So Sea King Mark IV is routinely flown into Glastonbury Abbey grounds, landed and used so that it can be the centrepiece for Royal Navy officers and their families to have a glass of champagne and look at the aircraft. We host MOD team building days and events. So Defence Equipment and Support's Helicopters Operating Centre come into here routinely to have senior leadership team building days and strategic offsites, etc. And we also host local police forces, counter-terror teams, etc., to do search training across the areas. As you can imagine, there's a fascinating centre picture for search dogs, horses, helicopters, all sorts of great stuff. It's great fun. Our future plans. We plan to sell Sea King Mark IVs, Zulu Foxtrot 122. So if any of you have got £1 million kicking about, we'll happily part with 122 for you. We can even deliver it into the UK wherever you'd like. We're hoping to do more open days and open mornings. As I talked about, we do regular open mornings with the aircraft in the hangars, etc. But we're trying to expand that to get it to be a more interesting static displays and potentially air days as well. This year we're supporting an awful lot of activity. We're about to do Dunkeswell in a couple of weekends' time. So we'll take the aircraft up to Dunkeswell to display there. We've just returned from Coxside in Belgium, taking the Mark 48 Sea Kings, and we plan to do many more. That's it from me, but what I'd like to do is introduce you to Jane, who is Historic Helicopters pilot and the only civilian qualified Sea King pilot. So if you have any questions, please do fire them through, but I'll let Jane do her introduction and we'll go on to questions after. Thank you.
I think they've said it, haven't they? I am the only female civilian Sea King pilot in the world. That's because we have the only civilian Sea Kings in the world, and I'm the one that had the opportunity to fly them. But it does mean that when you were asking the question about pilots in the models, they'd have to include female versions as well. So another reason why they didn't do it. Yeah, I'm a very lucky person. I get to fly with some extremely qualified pilots. One that's here today as well. You know, they've got 20 years of experience doing this. I haven't even got 1,000 hours in helicopters full stop yet. But it's a multi-pilot aircraft. I fly with them and eke their experience the whole time. I was lucky enough to be on the filming of the Invasion, where we had a massive drone. I didn't ask them the value of the drone because it looked an awful lot of money, and we were flying over it for that. As the director said, "That's my money shot, just as you fly in," over the drone. And they were literally go again, go closer, go again, go closer. And I think we were literally a couple of feet over the top of it come the end because the way the air was going. It's just such an experience, and most people have no idea what goes on behind making the films and everything else. I don't want to waffle on because
We're keeping you from lunch.
and the actual aircraft and everything else. But yeah, I'm very lucky to be in this position, and appreciate it all.
As a supervisor down there, son, he left the company. Dale was then looking for someone to join, and he knew that I was heavily interested in airfix. I do a lot more than myself, and love aviation. He said, why not? So if you change your job, you'll have to do that. Yes.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Right. Feel free to take photographs of whatever you want. We'll have a look around, sit in it. No dramas at all. But before you sit in the pilot seat, I'll give you a quick demo of how to get in and out of it. So.
Shoe yourself in.
Yes, it is very much so. So you've seen the Navy one that Andrew was muttering about getting up to. I'm not convinced that'll ever happen.
Right.
But it's because it's in a pretty sorry state compared to the rest of these. But so that is in fact a yellow Mark III like that one.
Yeah.
But with a £20,000 paint job.
Right.
Which was done last June for Netflix, The Diplomat series, The Diplomat.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So we're in. I flew it for it, and we're in the end of episode 2 and beginning of episode 3.
So that's when you have to go back and rewatch these things.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So essentially, these two are sister aircraft. The Belgian one is the different one, and that was rescued, but they took them out of service in 2019 in Belgium and replaced them in the NH90, which isn't serviceable as anything like as much as the Sea Kings were. And then Andrew bought those and flew them across in 2021. And then 2 weeks ago, we took that one back to Belgium for their open day at Coxside, and the public just loved it. It's such an icon, even more so, or at least as much as the yellow ones in the UK.
Yeah.
In Belgium, everybody seems to have gone to the holiday parks by the coast, which is where Coxside is, and they've seen those things there for 40 plus years. We had a queue 100 metres long for 5 hours of people just wanting to come and touch the aircraft and go in it. And
that's it, I guess it's been around for such a long time, it's going to cost a few generations.
Absolutely. We had people coming and doing good work on them. I started flying in 2001 on the Sea Kings. I've done Wessex and Leeds. I was based in Charitable. I had 7 years of exchange in more than 8 years. Came back a year ago. I said, well, we're going to put you to your Wessex. We've got you. All right. Sea Kings search and rescue at Charitable, please. So that's what I did. So I was trying to when I joined the industry, and that was before those that still the area trains like a really fun producing fast programs. So you could do 15 hours a week on chipmunks, flight selection, and then went to run up through FTSs to fly objectives. Well, no, it was very much complete training. So I managed to escape the objective system. I joined because I wanted to fly. Say that. I mean, how it is. So we got managed to escape and then and finished in May and went straight to the and that's what it is once you've done the basic helicopter things, and it's still the same way. Then you've got to do it. at Sarta in my first research. So, train the vessels into ready to products for like provincial rescue transfers. Now it's the aircraft sits in the hot taxi and they remove the boat. And those days,
and then just let you wander around, climb around and enjoy. So starting with the Whirlwind here to my left, your right, the oldest aircraft in our collection, so 66 years old, and the only flying example left in the world. So 68 of the aircraft were built. There are 18 remaining in existence, but the others are all static. So one in Cyprus, 2 in Germany, 1 in Holland, the rest in museums around the world. This particular aircraft was originally built at HAR2 standard and was first flown on the 18th of January 1956. On March of that year, went on to Strengthwood 22 Squadron and patrolled the beaches of Devon and Cornwall, and did a fantastic job in a search and rescue configuration. In 1961, she went back to Westland Helicopters, so literally just down the road, and was upgraded to HAR10 standard. So that involved fitting the Gnome 101 engine as opposed to the Elvis Leonides rotary engine that was in it beforehand. When she was withdrawn from service, she was an instructional airframe for quite some period of time, then came to here in 2013, as Andrew talked about earlier on, to become one of the first aircraft in the historic helicopters fleet. The aircraft's got a 13,000 foot ceiling, max speed of about 109 miles an hour, and a range of about 340 miles an hour, 340 miles rather, dependent on weather conditions, load, etc. So quite a capable aircraft for that age. Behind me is Wessex 5, and as you can see, my fantastic notes: don't ever give paper to engineers, because it's like having a panda deal with it. So this aircraft, Wessex 5, British built under licence, Sikorsky S58. So as with most of the Westland aircraft, licence built to a US design. So the aircraft was originally flown, or first flight, on the 3rd of October 1966, and it was with the chief test pilot of Westland at the time, Mr. LCE Devine, who's got a fantastic signature. If you look at the logbook, he really is impressive. Aircraft's got a really interesting sort of history, and some real vignettes of it. And to me, these aircraft, the interesting bit is about the people. So this aircraft went out by Belfast Heavy Lift Aircraft to Ascension Island in May 1982 to be forward mounted in support of the Falklands conflict. Returned on RFA Oliver in November 1983, went to Marshalls of Cambridge for refinishing, then went on to become an instructional aircraft like so many others. But it then went to Shepperton Film Studios and featured in a Bond film. Now, I mentioned this on an open morning, and this created quite an interesting reaction from a couple that were in this thing. The gentleman sort of threw his head back and went, "Oh God, here we go." And the lady that was there suddenly lit up and said, "Oh dear, let me tell you about my experience with cinema." It turned out this very lovely lady was a stunt double for a Bond girl, and was winched out of the aircraft. And it was fantastic, because she spent her time with her husband's utter derision, saying she shows everyone these photos of her as a young lady and as a stunt double for a Bond girl in a bikini, which was great. But that gives you an idea of some of the rich history of the aircraft and the people connected with them. And one of the great things we have with the open mornings is meeting the people that flew them, crewed them, operated them, were rescued by them, all sorts of things. That's just these two. Please do have a wander around. Have a clamber around the aircraft. The crew, the engineers, etc. will assist you. The only thing we'd ask is please don't get into the cockpits of the Wessex or the Whirlwind, because they're external climb and you need assistance to get in there, etc. But please do enjoy. If you have any questions, happy to answer any of them. But enjoy. Thank you.
Okay. Before you wander off, everyone, about 20 past, we're going to head over to watch the sea thing fold its blades. So you've got a bit less time than advertised, but just so you know.
Getting in? I mean,
I built the fly one of this.
Yeah.
That was an handful of a kit. The 30-second one. It's got its flotation buoys, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah, it's not quite as roomy as the CP, is it?
no. No, I do like the way though on this one you can grab the pilot's legs if he's really being a prat. Hi! Pass him up his drink apparently, he's doing the thing. It looks fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was saying the thing is, it looks the
You've got to
part.
get a few shots.
I have,
because
yeah. I've told Airfix they should do that one.
Yeah.
Because obviously you could do the wasp and the.
I also tell them that's the one that keeps coming up on the whistles.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And obviously you can do the Scout as well, so it's a bit like
Yeah.
Navy version. You get two kits out of it. Yeah. And obviously it's very iconic. It's British, so it's their remit.
And tying in with the latest thing, there's an existing hit.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, there's no excuse they can't lidar it. That's a proper helicopter. It's leaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was expecting somebody to ignite me.
Yeah, it's his wick.
I think they're trying every button. Yeah. Yeah. It's the button on the left. The left.
Did you try turn it on and off?
Yeah, turn it on and off again.
You know when you pulled up the old cut-off switch earlier?
Yeah, that's what it was. I was looking for where the president's wife sat.